So we're recording?
We're recording.
All right.
Yeah. So I thought of a question.
Okay.
So we've been married for almost 11 and a half years. And at, I think, 6.5, I left. And we were separated for 2 years, and we almost came to the brink of divorce. How did we survive to 11 and a half, given that we did that?
Strong sense of humor.
Yours, not mine, because
Yeah.
I don't have one, or
That's
at least
We count the number of jokes she makes in a year on one hand. But we've been getting up to 2 hands.
I'm getting better. As I get older, I get better. I don't know if it's more cynical or more funny.
I think we're up to like 5 good jokes so far this year, and we're what, halfway through the year?
Yeah, not even
It's like
halfway through the year.
Record breaking.
Yeah.
This one.
So, a sense of humor from your side.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
I think I've always had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's helped. It helps to not take things too friggin' seriously.
Yeah.
That's
it helps when
thing.
at least one person doesn't take things too seriously, because I take everything too seriously.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
I'm getting better, but yeah, would you describe me as an intense person?
Yeah, but it's like anybody else. Like, you are intense with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also, like, you put up a lot for me. It's like an intense person that is intense across the board would not be able to put up with me.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So you're obviously really chill in certain areas.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty human, though.
Yeah.
Pretty human thing.
I think one of the pieces that I had to learn to get in order for us to get to this point was that I needed you to not be responsible for my feelings.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I thought that you were supposed to be the source of all my happiness, and if I was unhappy, it meant that you were doing something, and it was you that needed to change. And I didn't know how to take responsibility for my happiness, and that's one that I'm still working on a daily basis.
Yeah, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
That sounds tough.
Yeah.
So one thing I thought of is I didn't have a term for this when we were going through the dark times.
Mm-hmm.
Dark times.
The dark times.
But I recently heard a term called conversational narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking there, and I think the first reaction that I and a lot of people have is like, oh, let me tell you about a story from my thing and my happiness and stuff like that. And instead, I just listened.
Yeah.
They call that holding space, I guess. You okay?
Holding space, I guess. I love that. That's so
and
cute.
Stuff.
And stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
Yes. Stuff and things.
So when we were going through that stuff, that was something that I really had to learn, because when you were saying things, my immediate reaction was, this is a slight on me, or this is something you're saying that's bad about me.
Yeah.
And I need to defend myself because you're clearly wrong and I'm awesome. And everything that's going wrong is your fault. It couldn't possibly be my fault. Or, it's kind of an extreme version of it. Or it was like, well, this is mostly your fault.
Mm-hmm.
There was some work that I had to do to just kind of sit in my own discomfort of some of this stuff being my fault. One of the other phrases I remember is, everything that happens to you is your fault. Or how does that go? At the center of everything that happens to you is you. It's like, well, you may actually be responsible for some of the things happening around you.
Yeah.
That was a good one. It's like, okay, well, maybe I just need to shut up more.
The one that got me was when you're pointing a finger at someone, there's 3 fingers pointed back at you. And like, it was like, oh, wait a minute. If I'm telling him that, what is that? What am I not looking at? What am I not paying attention to? And how do I uh, and that was not something I was able to look at. I had a really hard time with being able to look at my part in things. If he was saying that I had done something that, when you were saying something that I had done hurt you, I did not know how to. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fix it, and I thought it was something I had to fix, and I thought that it was something that I had done wrong, and I would do everything in my power to try and change your opinion, because because I had to change your opinion so that you didn't feel bad, because if you felt bad, then that meant I did something wrong, and therefore I had to change it, because I couldn't sit with the discomfort that I was experiencing, and I still have a tendency to get very defensive, and at times, like you said, I'm gonna pick up the house, and I was like, and I immediately got into
today.
that was something that happened yesterday. He said, I'm gonna organize the house. I'm like, what did I do? Wait, what's
What did
what's
I
wrong?
do?
What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong?
And
Wow.
how, and how do I didn't know how to sit with that. And I didn't know how to talk about what was going on in my own internal world. Like, I didn't know how to explain or talk about it. And I didn't know how to say, I'm feeling mad at you, but I understand that it's not something that you did. This is all me, but I'm blaming you at the moment because that's easier than feeling my feelings. And when I can actually verbalize that, when I can say, right now, there's a part of me that wants to blame you because that would be easier than feeling the discomfort that I'm feeling right now. There's something that you can do with that. Like, there's a conversation that can be had, or at least there's an acknowledgement that I may be acting like I'm mad, but I'm not actually mad at you. I'm just having a hard time dealing with my own feelings.
Yeah. So you're talking about what happened today?
Yeah. Well, was that today? I thought it was yesterday.
Well, there was a house cleaning thing today, or yesterday. I think it came up again today.
Yeah, we went to lunch. Yesterday at lunch, you said you wanted to do some house organization, and then
you got some feels there.
And I had some feels. I got defensive.
Then there's the thing that happened today, which is our. How did you put the thing with the loneliness or? Wanting to be more social.
Yeah. So today we were sitting and we were watching a Fast and the Furious movie.
Fate the Furious.
We might watch movies over and over again at times.
This is all on me.
The proverbial we. And I was getting this intense feeling of like, I need to be doing something. There's this doesn't feel like I am using my time wisely. Now, granted, I was working on one of my friendship bracelets. But, that's a feeling that I get often, especially on Sundays, is there's a lot of movie watching, and there's a lot of discomfort because I want to be doing something productive. I want to be contributing. I don't know. And so I wanted it to be his fault because, one of the things that is true is when we're together, it's easy to not feel completely alone. Like if you weren't here, I'm talking about you like you're not here. If you weren't here, then I was alone, I would be out doing something in order to, stave off that feeling of loneliness. Or I'd go meditate, or, there'd be something to help me work through, to distract me. But when you're here, it's like, well, he's here, so I don't have, I'm not totally lonely. I'm not totally alone. But so my mind was making it clearly your fault. Clearly it's your fault.
Clearly.
Hey, can you scoot back?
Oh, yeah. Is that better?
Pretend like you like me.
Oh, I do like you. I don't have to pretend.
That was kind of a not nice way of saying it.
Is it?
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. how do you, in a world where it's not easy to be social, how do you go out and do stuff when it's easy to be at home with, your primary partner? How do you build social relationships if that's the thing, if that's something that doesn't come naturally to you?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answer to that.
That's a good question. I think that was the dream of social media, is to like make us feel more connected, and I personally feel less connected.
Yeah. There are times when I feel more connected, and then there are times when I feel less connected.
I feel less connected because it seems like everything I say in social media gets met with just negativity. Somebody nitpicking something apart, or and there's also the thing like I expect a certain reaction, and I don't get it.
Yeah. It makes me think of, it's like when it comes to communication, 7% of your communication is the words you use.
Yeah.
93% is, body language, tone of voice, all of those things. And when you eliminate those, you have to be incredibly precise with your language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult to be that precise with the language.
Yeah.
As we're recording this, I'm having that feeling of like, where would we post this? What would we do with this?
So, YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
There's YouTube.
Okay.
And we could also...
different answer?
Well, we could post it to Facebook. I think there's part of me that's like, is this narcissistic as hell? For us to be recording our conversations and sharing them?
No.
No?
Other people do this.
Yeah.
And it seems entertaining.
Yeah.
Philippe does this stuff, doesn't he?
He records conversations. Yeah, he could record conversations with other people.
Yeah, we're other people.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a voice in my head that's telling me that this is incredibly narcissistic and that, oh my God, why are you doing this? Because that's what the voices in my head tell me.
Well, we could sort of, well, you asked the question, what do you do? So that could be like a call to action, like help us figure this out, and kind of talking about the 7% thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe this is our way of both of us trying to work out a problem that we're having.
Yeah. And
asking other people to help, but not doing it as a post where it's like, what's the context here? Like, what are you really struggling with? Maybe if somebody watches this, I'm going to say that would be pretty impressive for somebody to watch this whole thing.
Yeah. Because we've been going for about 13 minutes.
13 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can talk about a lot more stuff.
Joe Rogan goes for 3 hours, but Joe Rogan talks about lots of really interesting things.
Well, I think we're talking about interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And he started out with just a laptop and whatever in a dingy apartment, so...
Yeah.
Just never know where things are going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, like her or not, Candace Owens did a similar thing. There's a lot of people on YouTube who are popular with a group of people.
And they started just with, they're talking to their laptop.
Yeah, that'll be what we call this. Rambling at her laptop, something like that. Laptop ramblings.
Laptop therapy?
Laptop therapy.
Laptop couples therapy?
Laptop couples therapy. There it is. That's awesome.
I like that.
All right, see, we just figured that out. So I think this is kind of like our practice of like working things out.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe it is narcissistic. I don't know if we can even make that determination, but I think it's good to work things out like this.
Well,
it feels better.
The fact, it's like we talk about things a lot, but how do you have conversations with your spouse about, I want things to be, I'm not satisfied with the way things are at this moment in life, and I want something to change, but I don't know exactly what it is that I want to change. I don't know how to change it.
Okay. So, in this case, you had made this statement. I was sitting over in that couch over there.
Hmm.
You had made this statement about, well, what was the statement? I want to hear from you.
Well, so what I said was that there's I'm feeling really uncomfortable, and I want and part of me wants to blame you for it and wants it to be your fault because
Well, I think that was the statement
yeah.
that you made, and then I said something like, "What do you want me? What is my fault?" or something like that.
Well, and then I went and I talked about the that time that we went to a movie.
Can we put a pause in that?
Yeah.
A second? I just want to clear
Oh, okay.
up. Let's really go through the details on this
Okay.
too, because I think that's probably important.
Okay.
What I said was, "What do you want me to be responsible for?" or something like that. But I said it in a very non-judgmental way.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. There was no. It didn't feel threatening to my nervous system in a way that I think would have in the past.
Okay, so I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to the little bit of sense of humor. I didn't say it in a way like, okay, so let's just say that there's a really great way of saying that. The message that I conveyed wasn't angry.
Yeah.
It wasn't accusatory. It didn't put us back into our old patterns. Yeah. Like, it seemed really healthy.
Yeah.
And then we learned how to do that. And I think that's we thing.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
It's like I had to learn how to do that, and I think you had to come a little bit on your side to be able to receive that message in a way that wasn't going to tear you up a bit.
I think the part that I had to learn was.
Sorry, I was telling you.
Oh no, that's okay. I think one of the pieces, a big piece of our communication that's been helpful for me is there's a part of me that's frustrated with you. It's like using that language of there's a part of me that's frustrated with you. It's like, instead of coming to you and say, why can't you just help me do something outside? Why are you making this so difficult? It's like, there's a part of me that's feeling frustrated.
Yeah.
Because when I talk about it, that there's a part of me doesn't mean I'm mad at you. It means I'm experiencing these emotions and I'm making it and I'm making it your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm doing. It's not actually your responsibility, but it's something that I'm making your responsibility in my own head. And when I can communicate it in that way, it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's less threatening, less accusatory, less blamey than I think I would have communicated something in the past.
Yeah, and in the past we were constantly fighting about our fights and stuff like that. So
yeah.
We just had compounding problems.
Well, yeah, we were fighting, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, this is something that we kind of do a lot, I think.
Yeah. And
there might be a bit of stoicism mixed into what I'm doing here. Just kind of putting a little bit of a wall up and not taking what you just said personally. Mm-hmm. And that does take some effort. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be blamed for stuff.
Yeah.
I just like doing my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the conversation continued. So you made the statement. You feel a certain way.
Yeah.
I countered with, give me more information, and then you gave me more information. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's when you started talking about the story that you had.
Yeah. And there was, I think, specifically saying that I want to make it your fault. No, because that's owning that it's not, that I know it's not your fault, but there's part of me that wants it to be.
That was huge.
Because that language is a way of, it's like, I know it's not your fault, but I didn't know that for a really long time. I always thought, I thought it was your fault.
Right.
And ultimately, it's like I hate the new agey terms sometimes, but I like the term co-creation. And it's like we're co-creating we're co-creating something. And the question is how purposeful are we being? So going back to the story that I had said. So a couple years ago, we were going to a movie, and we were at that time talking a lot about weight loss and about family patterns and stuff like that. And there was somebody who was in front of us who was dealing with a big, actually it was more than one somebody. It was like a family, and they were dealing with, and you could, from an outside observer perspective, might say that they were dealing with weight issues. And you brought up the fact that if you were in a family where everyone was overweight, it could be really hard to achieve an escape velocity to get away from that. Like if you wanted to lose weight, but everyone in your family was overweight, and you wanted to get healthy, it could be really hard to get healthy, because if you change, sometimes the people who love you don't want you to change.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was kind of something along the lines of what you were saying.
If you're all living in the same place and you like turn into a vegetarian to be healthier, and everyone else is still wolfing down Whoppers and fries, like it's just hard.
Yeah, and I think what I was sharing that story because sometimes one of the things I experience is that you have a strong center of gravity. And sometimes escaping sometimes it's
That's
difficult.
not calling me fat or big.
No, it's not. I mean, you are a big man.
Very big man.
You're a very big man, but you have a strong presence. You have and so like, and being out and being social is not something that comes naturally to me to begin with.
Right.
And so doing that and encouraging you to want to do it with me so that we can do it, so that we can be together, spend time together, is hard. Like feels like it's, like there's a lot of energy needed to achieve that, and I haven't figured out quite how to do that. And that's again, not your fault, but it's it's an interesting, going back to that co-creation term, it's an interesting
Well, I would say that I can own some part of that because I think I just my whole life I've gained a lot of success by internalizing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that my version of success is career success mostly, and what that's changing slowly over time to be more success as a well balanced person, but inertia is tough to beat. So up until like 5 years ago, my entire adult life was focus on learning, doing, creating in my way, in my little bubble.
Yeah.
Tons of success with that. Built a wonderful life for us.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to break out of that. But it is something that I do want to break out of. But boy, turning that ship has been really difficult. We had a thing yesterday. It was a birthday party. We have shared calendar system thing going on. I'm not going to get into that, but the birthday party invite on the calendar was 11 o'clock. So we show up at like 10:40.
No, it was like noon.
Oh, sorry, it's like noon, but it's still really early. I remember being early.
Yeah.
Oh lordy Lou, and it turns out the party didn't start until 3, but then it didn't kick off until like 4 or 5. But then my person, the person who invited us, said, "Hey, come around at 5," and then I ran face first into a nap, and then didn't make it, and then I felt really bad, and it's like, well, we tried. Like that was our version of trying. We tried so hard, and screwed it up, and now it's like that momentum is even harder to get now because you can think of it as the equivalent. Go back to your story about if you're in a family that has unhealthy patterns to begin with.
Yeah.
And you try something and it fails, it's so much easier to slide back into that. Like if you manage to get the whole family eating some vegetables or a salad or something like that, and they don't lose weight right away, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Like they're right into those nice, comfy patterns.
Right.
And I feel like we just kind of did that, and today has been another version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some exercise in. I think you got some.
We did
some
yoga.
works. Yeah, we did yoga, morning yoga.
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're so much better at time. I'm lost without a calendar.
He was
man.
not. He does not have good calendar support all the time.
No. It's
And
double
I
checking.
he doesn't have good calendar support, and I don't have good clean up kitchen support. Like I blow up the kitchen. I did that today. And the fact that I can own that, it's like, yeah, I am not. I have not learned the art of cleaning up as you go when you clean when I cook. I think there's a reason why I avoided cooking for a long time, but I'm slowly learning how to do it again, and some of it's successful and some of it isn't.
No, you got me here to help you out.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But going back to the escape velocity thing, we are going to a festival next weekend.
Yeah.
And that takes, we've been to this same festival. This will be the 4th year that we've gone.
It's 4th year.
This is the 4th year we've gone. And
Cool.
4th year. Wow.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Wow.
That's fun.
And so that's getting outside of our comfort zone. But even when we've gone, we spend a lot of time in bed, and we don't.
Yeah.
We don't do the socialization thing, or at least I have a hard time doing it. And
I do pretty well in the naked hot tubbing.
You do. I
strike up conversations with naked people.
Yeah, you're good at that.
It's pretty fun.
And I have a hard time with being social. I have a lot of fear around judgment, and there's like these rules, and when it comes to social situations that I don't really know, or I don't think I know, or that I think that I don't do well, and so I avoid them. Although this year I have reached out to a few different people who I know are going to be there to talk to them and communicate with them, and in an attempt to like figure this out. And this year we're taking somebody with us to this festival, and so we're gonna, it's not just gonna be the two of us. There's somebody else that's gonna ride up with us and who's gonna go on adventures with us.
Yeah.
And so, but figuring out, how to escape that velocity.
I wonder if you could quantify what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules. You're afraid of breaking the rules.
Yeah, that's one of my big fears in life is that I'm gonna do it wrong,
and that leads to something, doesn't it?
Usually, my annihilation. Yeah.
It's intense, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually the fear inside is like, if I get this wrong, then something terrible is gonna happen. Robert, my NLP teacher, he talks about, it's like when it comes to NLP, we're not doing brain surgery, and we're not defusing a bomb.
Right.
Try something and see how it works. That doesn't resonate with me. Like, social situations feel like I'm diffusing a bomb.
It seems pretty intense for you.
It is.
Like, you don't get to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to dig into that deeper someday. But,
yeah.
So annihilation through a tiny mistake. It's like, that's such a fun juxtaposition.
Juxtaposition.
Thank you. Teamwork.
Yes.
That's such a fun thing like that. Say annihilation from such a small mistake, like such a big outcome.
Yeah.
From some kind of tiny mistake.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so unimbalanced,
Yeah.
Okay, so if you took that, and then what was the other fear that you had? Or that's probably the biggest one.
That's the biggest one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we could, like, you make a social mistake, and then I'm sure people can come up with like different scenarios, like annihilation or disconnection, or something like that. I wonder if you put this all in a Survey Monkey, and you gave it to everyone there, how many people there are going to be like, oh my God, I have the same problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone there probably has the same. there's probably one or two people there who are like just social weirdos.
Yeah.
They're
Philippe,
like-
I think, would be one of those people who could.
Okay.
Like,
Philippe's a social weirdo. I was
Yeah.
just gonna, if he ever watches this, I'm sorry.
we
Please
love you,
don't-
Philippe.
Please don't hurt me with your French words. You're a pretty French person. Okay. But I would imagine, like, except for Philippe and maybe Blake, everyone else is kind of having the same problem. I try to think about that. It's like these, and me being a large guy, it kind of comes with the territory. It's like these people are probably just as afraid of like social faux pas or like doing something that disconnects them in some way from the community or from themselves or like another way to look at that, I think, is sometimes like people are sometimes afraid of connecting to another person because it's like, if I take that risk and
Yeah.
trust this person,
Yeah.
are they going to somehow use that against me? Are they going to hurt me?
Yeah.
And I think I have this thing in my head where it's like I'm the big scary looking dude, and people generally have one of two impressions of that. If they had older brothers, they see me as what I am, big, cuddly, safe guy. Like, I will fuck you up if you cross the line with somebody else, right? And it's usually somebody else. Like, I
Yeah.
protect a sister.
Yeah.
You know, all of the women at Soul Play are like a sister to me.
Yeah.
If you fuck with him, I will fuck you up, kind of thing. Like, that's how some women see me, or some people in general
Yeah.
see me, right? As the big brother, protector, kind of paladin sort of thing. And then there's another group of people, which is like the predominant group of people, who is like, that's big scary guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to go near him. He's like biker or something, like some
The
kind of evil or whatever.
The assessment I usually get, the assessment that I've usually gotten from other people's descriptions of you is, he's a big dude.
Yeah. Well, big dude. That's scary.
Yeah,
Right? It's like a big grizzly bear.
He's a scary dude. You know, I've gotten that more than once from other men, actually.
Well, when you're scaring other men, that's usually, there's nothing I can really do about it. Like, I've tried shaving the beard. It really didn't do much. It's like a younger version of a scary looking dude. Like, oh, he's scary, but he looks 12. But like, it's just my stature, you know.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it's really in the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I just have an intensity in my eyes. It's usually because I'm dealing with some yin shit, like some yin.
Yeah.
You know, yang is easy for me.
Yeah.
Like, kicking trees
Okay.
is easy.
So describe what yin and yang mean to you.
Oh, so yang is like the push.
Yeah.
It's like the masculine pushing, doing, acting in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Getting shit done, building bridges, physical bridges, building buildings, stuff like that. And then the yin is more feeling things, connecting to people, connecting to things, appreciating the art and stuff, pulling, receiving, listening, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I usually have more of a struggle with the yin side of things because I've always done yang, just a yang dude. So when I have this intense look in my face, especially there, it's like I'm trying to noodle out all of these complex yin things and try to be in the yin and journey along that path. And it takes a lot more energy than just like, like being rooted like a tree. Like, I often use that as an analogy. Like the top of the tree is the yin and the bottom of the tree is the roots, that's the yang. And in our dynamics, it's very good for me to be rooted down into the earth, principled, acting with integrity, knowing where I stand, being deeply rooted in that strong roots kind of thing. And then you're up in the top, just blown away.
Yeah, I
whipping
tend
around.
to be often whipped around by the forces of the world.
It could be whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? But it's usually a good combination to have the strong roots and then the wild ass fucking top part. I'm sorry, I made swears. Sorry.
You're good.
But sometimes it works out like that. But then we go to something like this, and it's heavily embodied in the yin, right? Feel through these things. Be a good member of the forest that allow the little forest creatures to I don't know how Blake said it. He had a really great way of saying this. Like, other forest creatures, like, be a good tree for the other forest creatures.
Yeah.
To live on me or have a branch on me. I know roots. That's what I know. Like
Yeah.
the other stuff is I'm still working on.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's usually takes a lot of effort to be in that space because it's just so different for me.
Yeah.
And then I think there are examples of this with you where you have to be more in your masculine to get things done.
Yeah.
And it just takes more mental effort.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes along with my whole thing about being a more well-balanced person.
Mm-hmm.
Exercising both sides of that. So I bring the yang to the gym, to the Krav, and beating shit up and like hitting the fucking heavy bag, strong punches, strong,
mm-hmm.
push through the pain, and then use this to exercise my yin, and like hope at the end of all of this I end up a pretty balanced person.
Yeah.
Totally went off in the weeds. Did you love that?
That was
awesome.
Well, the thing I was thinking about is, one of the things that makes, I think, our partnership work is that you are a strongly rooted person, and so I have a tendency to sometimes have a difficult time staying grounded. And so one of the things that helps me to stay grounded is you, and that and I have a lot of stories in my head of like I'm not supposed to need other people, and it's like being able to be okay whether you are in my life or not. And I get these wild hairs up my butt. I don't know where that phrase comes from, but I think of it every once in a while. I get this thing I get this idea of I have to figure out how to be on my own and be alone, and somehow that and often that comes in the form of, well, I need to just go off and be on my own and and figure out who I am and be me, and so that I can figure out how to do all of those things on my own. And I don't wanna. I don't wanna. I don't. It's like it doesn't make sense for me to. It's like, how do you do that? Well, does that mean we separate, get a divorce, and I go off and figure out how to do that, or do I figure out how to do that in the relationship? I was talking to a friend this week, and it's like, for whatever reason, it's kind of like I'm learning how to repair my engine while I'm driving, in the Daytona 500.
Wow, it's pretty intense.
That I have to figure out how to be my own person in the shadow of a giant oak tree, and it's like, how do you learn how to be your own person in the shadow of something that's ginormous and big, and how do you do that? And I haven't figured that out yet, and I'm still working on it. And it's kind of like, I think what a lot of people would do in that situation is, well, I need to go and figure out who I am first and then be in a relationship. Well, that's not how it worked out. I didn't know that. I didn't learn that lesson up front. So 12 years in, we're married. Now I got to figure out how to do that. And I've got to do that with a massive gravitational force, a big shadow, all of those different metaphors and analogies to describe, how do I step out into the sunlight by myself, into my own sunlight, and still be in relationship with you. And I don't know, I figuring that out is a challenge. It's I think that's one of the challenges of my life.
Yeah.
Is figuring out how to do that, and it's figuring out how to stand next to how do I stand next to you as my own person without getting swallowed or getting sucked into your gravitational force and all of those things. And and that's especially hard when I do enjoy being around you. Like,
oh, thank you.
I
like you too.
And I think sometimes you're safe. You know, you, and that's a good thing. I mean, I think that there are ways that I would not have grown in my life had I not had your safe presence. And there are things that I've gotten to do because you have been, because you did do all of those things early on in your career to get established in order to be successful and provide a good life. That's allowed me to go off and do my, floaty in the wind, figuring out what it is that figuring out who I am. Like, it's not something I think I would have been able to do had I had, in the same way or with the same level of intensity that I tend to bring to things, had I had to maintain a job at the same time.
Yeah.
And, um, you know, the, yeah, and I guess that I kind of went off into the weeds there a little bit too, but it's
That's good.
But that is one of the things that I'm working on, and one of the challenges that I'm facing is I need to figure out how to move out of your shadow and be, strongly rooted next to you, not holding on to you so much. And that's, I don't know how to do that exactly. And so it's a challenge.
Well, that sounds like a hell of a challenge.
Yeah. Especially because I can be flighty. I can move and I also have to be careful of not trying to hold myself to too high of an expectation of like, that's I think why I go to the place of, well, maybe I just need to like go off, divorce you and go off and figure out how to live, be my own person.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's that all or nothing.
I wonder if there are other women that have felt that.
Yeah.
Or I guess other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
men or women.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like your partner is that huge tree or gravitational force, or you as an individual feel pulled to do something different with your life, but then pulled towards your partner.
Yeah.
And I think right now we have a pretty healthy relationship, but there's still that dynamic.
Yeah.
Where there's the inertia that kind of pulls you in and somewhat prevents you from moving out.
Yeah.
I wonder how many other people have that experience. Like, what do they do with it?
Yeah. And I wonder how many other people, when they're dealing with that, it's maybe think that their partner who has a strong gravitational force needs to meet them or be with that in that same path with them. Mm-hmm. And
well, it's kind of an all or nothing proposition too. Either you follow me and do it my way, or I'm going to leave you.
Right. Yeah. And
what do you do with that, man?
Well, and I think that's why I'm going to go out on a limb here and why we've gone down the path of polyamory.
Oh, okay.
I think
we're going to talk about that in this video, huh? We're pretty far into this video, so I'd be really surprised if anybody watches this far.
Yeah. I don't know. How long has it been going? 44 minutes!
44 minutes, wow.
3.6 gigs.
Very little chance of somebody this far in.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. Talk about everything else.
Yeah. It's, there's, there's, now my brain's gone blank.
Okay, we started with poly.
Yeah, that, poly, I think, is, polyamory. It's a way of relating. It's a way of being within relationships to say, I don't have to love just one person. Mm-hmm. And, in the past, I would have said that, I need to go off and be my, figure out who I am first on my own. But one of the things I know to be true is I figure out who I am in relationship to other people. And so when I am in relationship with someone else, or when I'm in relationship to you, it's figuring out how to do that. And I think the fact that we've been able to go down the path of polyamory tells me that, it's like we've both reached a place in our relationship where we are committed to each other, and at the same time we are able to let the other one go and have their adventures. I love, one of our songs is Jason Mraz, I Won't Give Up.
Mm-hmm.
I love that song because,
Me too.
it's, the lines for it say, no, I'm not, now, of course, because I'm thinking
Something about letting you go
Yeah,
off and
yeah.
discover something
Yeah.
and then coming back.
Yeah,
something
and,
like that.
it's that I think is what we're getting to do with each other is, okay, you're going to go off and have your adventure, and I'm going to go off and have my adventure, and, fall in love with somebody else. And that gives me a sense, that gives me a better sense of who I am in that process, I think. For me, it's, now I'm getting all shy and bashful and not sure what to say. But this is...
Can I try something?
Yeah.
I know that me having, let's say you have a T and I have a K.
Uh-huh.
So me having a K in my life,
Uh-huh.
a lady friend,
Uh-huh.
Has kind of helped me see some of the things that I do in our relationship that are...
Same here.
It's kind of like when you're married this long, we've gone through some stuff. Like, we've been through some stuff, bro.
We've been through some stuff.
Right. So we've confirmed. We affirmed that we've been through some stuff.
We have drug each... my assessment is we have drug each other through hell and back and managed to survive somehow and not killed each other.
Sure. There's some familiarity that comes with that.
Yeah.
And there's some habits that I've gotten into that are not the best habits to be in.
Yeah.
So being with a new person has kind of reminded me of the dating etiquette and treating a woman without the familiarity maybe a little bit, and then bringing some of that into our relationship, and smoothing up some of those edges and like taking out some of them rough spots. And I don't want to get into the graphics, but there's some etiquette that's been getting a little bit better, I think. And then from my perspective, it seems like you've been able to explore relationship mechanics in a different way. And I wonder if these are actually the same thing.
Yeah, I would say I've had the same experience of like
But it's just different from the feminine and the masculine.
In going and having a relationship with somebody else, I get to see, it's been 13 years since I've, dated anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm showing up in a completely different way, but in showing up in that and showing up in a different relationship, I see the ways that I see, because I want to show up on my best behavior, or my, put my best foot forward.
There it is,
with this new person.
We gotta forget that in our relationship, don't we?
I forget that in our relationship. And so
my best foot forward was like, fuck you, get out of my space.
Maybe. And so, getting to see the ways that I'm not showing up with you that I would have, getting to see the ways that I don't show up with, that I could show up differently with you. And, and at the same time getting to, have parts of myself that, it's like, you can't meet all my needs. And I think that was one of the mistakes. I believe the Disney strategy. I believe Disney. I believe Disney that you find your prince and you get married and then you live happily ever after because that person meets every one of your needs. That's not actually
Every
true.
single one.
Every single
That's
one.
a lot to put on a single person, man.
That's a lot to put on a single person. And, I wanted you to be my therapist and my husband and my lover and my protector and my blah, 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 blah.
Your chef.
My chef.
Sometimes you're maid. Sometimes you're your laundry person. Your
Hey,
housekeeper.
Laundry, hey, I agree with most of those except laundry.
Well, I think I did the same thing. I expected the same thing out of you.
Yeah. But, to know that there are parts of me that need that intimate connection with, that need that intimacy, that you're not necessarily, that's not your cup of tea. Like the metaphysical stuff. You think that me buying a white stone knife is the most useless knife on the planet, and for me, it's something that is an important tool, and other people in my life can relate to that, and that be okay. And I don't need, and I don't need anyone. Well, let me rephrase that. I try not to need anyone's validation, but that's not entirely true because I am human, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to be human. It's okay.
It's okay to buy stone knives.
Yes.
Spiritual stone knives.
Yes, spiritual stone knives, and even if you think it's the most useless knife.
This is like my practical side
Yeah,
coming out. I think your practical side comes out with some of my stuff. Like I do a lot of emergency supply stuff, like survival stuff. She's like, why do you need 12 knives? Or like, why do we need 6 buckets of emergency food? And like, well, if the world ends, you're going to be real happy for that. But right now, you're right. It's not very practical. This thing we all have our things,
We might have a storage unit that has...
Don't tell people that.
A fair amount of...
Somebody's going to see this anyway. It's okay.
But to be fair, I have a bunch of stuff in there too. And
if the world ends, come to my place. I'll keep you safe. Well fed and safe.
Yeah.
You'll have to deal with an armed guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, figuring out how to, and dealing with the feelings that come to the surface with being polyamorous. Like, oh, wait a minute, you're sitting on the couch with another woman's feet on your lap, and I don't know how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to, because I see that it makes you happy and that you're enjoying yourself, and that's a good thing. And knowing and resting in that I'm not in danger, I'm not in threat, but my nervous system wants to say that I am, and but that's
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
Seems like there's a lot of envy that happens in the beginning of this. For me there was.
Yeah, I think for me it's because the envy is wanting something, jealousy is being afraid of losing something.
Yeah, I was never afraid of losing.
And for me, mine is more around jealousy.
Oh, that's okay.
So you have more envy, I have more jealousy.
Yeah, my envy was that you had a relationship with someone else.
Yeah.
That was my envy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like we could do a whole nother thing and just poly
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, we could.
We started with social things, and we're like, oh yeah, we're poly. Like, well, isn't that social? Like,
yeah.
Let's do social stuff.
Oops.
Screensaver keeps going on. I gotta teach your computer how to do amphetamine.
It's on there.
Oh.
Amphetamine's on there. It's just not. I don't think it's turned on.
All right, we'll turn it on next time.
Yeah.
Anywho, should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
So our call to action.
So we are going to go to Soul Play, and we're going to
be social with us.
We're going to be social, and maybe what we do is on Sunday afternoons where we keep talking about this until we take some action.
I think it's way better to just talk about it. I think that's more my speed. I'm just saying.
Well. I think we've sat down and tried to have videotape conversations before, and they lasted like 10 minutes, and this one's lasted almost an hour. So nice. I like that. I think we've made...
Well, I should have a better attitude about this, too, because I feel like I'm kind of being the bad kind of inertia here.
I think just the fact that we could have this conversation is... monumental.
Well,
There's
that's
no-
huge.
There's no way we could have had this conversation 5 years ago.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah, there
Yeah.
would have been too many hurt feelings,
Yeah, there
and too
would have
much stuff built up.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
I feel like we really live spiritually clean.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. I don't think I've ever said that before, but it feels like we're not letting things pile up.
Yeah.
Like we deal with stuff
Yeah.
in our own wacky ways, but it's like you got to keep the plate clear.
Right. Well, and I think 5 years ago we wouldn't have we did not have a set of tools for communicating these things. We did not, it's like I didn't know that I was, that I was, making you responsible for everything,
Yeah.
and that was that you weren't supposed to do. Like I didn't understand that. I didn't understand how to communicate what I was experiencing in a way that was owning it
Yeah.
and not making it your fault. I mean, like, but still being able to acknowledge that there's part of me that's wanting to make it your fault. I don't think that I could have done that.
Yeah, that's an intricate dance, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like you need to be able to say these things, but it also needs to be received in a way that is okay to be received.
Yeah, I
Does
went
that
through.
make sense?
Yeah, well, and
Some
like
yin in there.
we went through the period of time of where you would be upset, and I might have gone to the place of that's your expectations, you deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was a necessary part of our evolution because I didn't know I didn't have any more words to explain what I was trying to say at the time.
So I would. Well, we'll have to do that one and
Yeah.
another one. Do you want to wrap this one up?
Sure.
So it seems like we have a lot more content we could.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
talk about a lot more content. I think
All right.
we'll.
Let's break it up for episode 2.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.